Good morning, everyone. My name is James Jackson, he, him pronouns. I am starting to report on the incidents from yesterday of peaceful protests across the city of Philadelphia. I have several guests with me today who were people that were at those protests, and I will be featuring them as we go through the morning here. I'd just like to first talk about the statement that Mayor Kenny and Commissioner Outlaw issued last night. They must have issued it late last night. I didn't get the notification until this morning. I would have gone on the stream then, but I did just get this notification at like 8:30. So they issued a statement, and it reads, if I may, I apologize, I didn't pull it up in advance. It reads in part that officers responding to the protest entering 676 were surrounded, and that that the protesters shook the vehicle of a state police officer, that he feared for his safety. And then that is why the police responded with tear gas and increased enforcement. This is a blatant lie. I don't know how many of you folks were watching last night, but I was watching. After I ended my broadcast, I had the opportunity to review a lot of in-person video from under the overpass, over the overpass, just about every angle you could imagine on this event. And there was no incident of protesters surrounding and shaking and causing a state trooper to fear for his life. I'm calling on the immediate independent investigation by City Council into the events of yesterday and the illegal use of force by Commissioner Outlaw against the peaceful protest. And I'm calling for people to call all of their City Council members. That includes your at-large council members, all at-large council members. I'll remind you, actually represent you if you live in the city limits. So call all your at-large council members, call your home district council members, call the council members for any district you work in regularly as well. Call all of those folks and immediately ask them to start an independent investigation and hold emergency hearings into whether Mayor Kenny should be impeached and whether Commissioner Outlaw should be fired. In my personal opinion, both of those things should happen, and we should immediately get a new mayor and new police commissioner. So that's my brief update for the morning. I cannot believe in a state of emergency we have city officials, elected and unelected, but the unelected ones were brought in by the elected officials. We have city officials blatantly lying on the in public. It's insanity. Okay, so MailChimp has since pulled down Mayor Kenny and oh no, they do still have it up. So let me read it in part. I'll read the part that is completely false. And reminder, just if you're tuning in, this is a false statement by the police commissioner and the mayor. Quote, "This afternoon at approximately 4:55 p.m., Philadelphia police responded to the I-676 expressway between 20th and 22nd Street bridges in order to render assistance to PA State Police. A crowd of over 100 persons had breached the fencing and proceeded onto the roadway. While on the roadway, the crowd surrounded a state trooper who was alone and seated in his vehicle and began rocking the vehicle, with the trooper having no safe means of egress. 2 teams from Philadelphia SWAT unit arrived. While the SWAT officers were present, members of the crowd began throwing rocks at the officers from the north and south sides." I'm sorry, they've added to this statement in the past 15-20 minutes. This is also completely false. 2 teams from the Philadelphia Police SWAT unit arrived. While the SWAT officers were present, members from the crowd began throwing rocks at the officers from the north and south sides and from the bridges above the officers. The crowd also began rushing towards the officers. None of this happened. None of this happened. The SWAT officers gave numerous orders for the crowd to disperse. They did not, to which the crowd did not comply. The crowd was unable to comply with a dispersal order even if one had been issued. They were on a highway with walls on either side. They were penned in. They were guarded from the back by arriving police. They were guarded from the front by SWAT team police. They were corralled into the area under the overpasses on 676. If you've ever driven through that area, you know this is an impossible place to escape from. At approximately 5:05 p.m., SWAT Team 2 deployed FNOC spray pellets, OC spray, and began beanbags in the direction of the crowd. SWAT Team 1 deployed FNOC pellets and beanbags. That is actually true. They did do those things. That was an illegal escalation of force, folks. Completely illegal escalation of force. After SWAT officers simultaneously deployed non-chemical white smoke and CS tear gas. This simultaneous deployment allows the officers to use less CS gas while maintaining a deterrent visual effect. I have no idea whether they used white smoke or not. Smoke tends to stay in the air, while CS gas dissipates very rapidly. They are both white in visual effect. All deployments ceased at 5:15 p.m. I'll have to review the tape. That doesn't sound right. And numerous arrests were made without further incident. That is not correct. People were fired on while in custody. Tear gas was deployed directly under the head of multiple protesters, was fired underneath the faces of protesters who were being laid over a barricade by police in custody, in cuffs. They illegally tear gassed, apprehended, and in custody protesters. So that is completely false. As is the case for all applications of force, this incident will be investigated by the police department's Internal Affairs Division. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think the case is solved. On the line with me, I have Natasha. I don't know how you want to be identified.
Yeah, my name's Natasha. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Yeah, you can just identify me as Natasha.
Okay, great. Hi, Natasha.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to pin my own video on if I can figure out how to. Yeah. Pin video on second screen. There you go. Thank you. Hey, Chris. I also have Chris, one of my co-producers, joining me, and he'll be helping out. Natasha, did you want to stay unseen? That's entirely up to you.
You can show my face. I mean, I've already had my picture taken, my ID taken. There's nothing more this Zoom call's gonna do.
Okay, I can't see you, so I just wasn't sure.
Really?
Yeah, that's okay then.
It says okay, whatever.
Yeah, your camera's on, but I can't see you. No big deal. You sent me pictures. Were you at this protest?
I was. I tried to put it on the drive, but it wouldn't let me.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I kept trying to put it, and then I was exhausted last night from being there since Friday.
No worries. Let me. You have my Gmail address. You can email me individual things if you want. But while you're working on that, if we could just talk over your experience, if you could just give your
you want me to just start from the beginning?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I went Friday to the art museum protest, and it started very peaceful. There was just chants. And then we started walking down, eventually got to Broad and Vine. And as you're walking down, there's just like graffiti. And I was like, okay, well, that doesn't look like a good sign. We keep walking, and then there was just like this, like, you know, when it's about to storm and it's really still outside?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like. And then all of a sudden there's just boom, 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 and a car's on fire. And I was at Broad and Vine. I tried to get out. Not gonna lie. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for what's gonna happen next. And then when I tried to get out, like, they pushed me back, and I was like, okay, guess I'm in this. And
Just to clarify, Natasha, right now you're talking about on Saturday, right?
Yes, on Saturday.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, not Friday. I'm sorry. It feels like it's been 1,000 years so far.
No, understood. Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting the days of the week mixed up here. Yeah, I mean, I felt like I saw a flashbang. I don't know if it was the car, but I was also right next to the cop car that was set on fire at City Hall, and I didn't experience it there, but like, it felt like I was like blinded for a second and then was very disoriented and my ears hurt. I don't know if other people experienced that. I don't know. I felt like that was very scary. Police there were definitely antagonizing people. Like, obviously people were yelling, but like, you know, you could see on the other side of the crowd, they were pushing somebody. I loved the counterterrorism. I liked the irony of that. That was funny. I was like, oh, you're the terrorist, but okay, let's keep moving.
The counterterrorism task force?
Yes.
So, were the folks labeled counterterrorism task force, were they PPD or?
I don't think so. I think they were state troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just said counterterrorism on them.
I see.
Yeah, so then we headed down to City Hall. I was in back of the Rizzo statue in between the municipal building. And people threw like 3 water bottles, and then the cops pushed forward. Like, they came ready. Can I curse? They came ready to fuck us up.
Yeah, no, this is marked mature. And I apologize for any underage viewers that might have did an end run around the tight security that is the internet for age control. And I apologize also in advance to anybody whose sensibilities do not include using curse words. I use them liberally. I expect that folks joining this conversation will probably end up from time to time needing to use them liberally.
Yeah.
To just reinforce your statement, there is video of a peaceful protester asking what happens at 8 p.m., sir, and the SWAT officer responding, well, at 8 p.m. we're going to fuck you up, and we're going to beat the shit out of you. So it's not even like it's your own language.
Yeah, they came like they don't want peace, they want submission.
Right.
That's it. That's all they want. They would rather have that. Oh my God. I hope I am there for the day that Rizzo statue falls. I just want to see it so bad now. So they're moving forward. And at that point, like, how are you not going to fight? So, it felt like the violence happened in like little spurts. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
There would be like, I don't know how long it was. It felt like forever. It could have been 3 minutes, but your time gauge is not going to be correct in that situation. So they're taking the barricades, pushing it against people, pushing forward and forward and forward. And like me, I don't know how many other people like have a chain and like pushing back, and then they would stop. And then it would start again, and then it would stop. Like, it was stop, start of, like, pushing back these cops.
Mm-hmm.
We were pepper sprayed. I mean, I wasn't directly hit with the pepper spray, but the person right next to me was. And if you're next to that giant pepper spray thing, like, you're getting sprayed.
Right, yeah, that nozzle is not designed... It's designed to have a center cone that projects very far, and also designed to spray about 20% of it in a wide area effect. So that it is not only a direct impact.
Yeah. And then that pretty much dissipated once the cop cars went on fire.
Okay.
I was hit with a baton at one point, like pushing back the cops.
Just to clarify, this was all at the City Services building, between City Hall and City Services building?
Yes. At that goddamn Rizzo statue. I mean, it was touching that, like, when it got violent, like, white people went to the front.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, there was something about that was really touching to me, that, like, you took hits long enough, like, I'll take this hit and I'll take this pepper spray right now.
Yeah, allyship is super important right now. I'm a resident of Philadelphia, and the environment last night was both frightening and toxic. As a visibly identifiable person of color, even though I wanted to leave the house, I did not. There were literal roving gangs of armed white men. There were literal roving gangs of armed white men. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again throughout this broadcast.
That the cops supported. That when people called and said, hey, there's these people with bats walking around, they said, oh, they're there to help the cops.
Hey, James, can I add something about those roving...
I'm sorry, I have to pause really quickly. I'm so sorry.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So just as context, I'm a member of a labor union in Philadelphia, and so there are people from many different, backgrounds that are members of that union, and some of those members were at and part of some of those roving gangs. And some of those members were also posting, live streams of what was going on and what was being said. And I can absolutely confirm that they were broadcasting live with racially charged language, They were armed with not just bats, not just shovels. There were a number of people that were out there with assault-style rifles. You know, your typical like AR-15 type firearms. They were saying things like, you know, and excited about it too. Like, oh, like I've been looking to get into a fight for 6 months was one line I had heard. Another and that I had heard was, like, look at him, he's ready, he's geared up for war, he ain't messing around. And also in one of the live streams, which was totally like, I want to also stress that the firearms discipline of the people handling these firearms was extremely, extremely poor. They were casually, like, the weapons were not pointed in safe directions at all times. And in one of the live streams, literally within the first 10 seconds, one of the members of this gang goes up and he like hugs another member. Mind you, none of them have masks on during a pandemic. That's like so far down the list. But no, one of them walks up to another member and embraces him, and you can clearly see a handgun fall out of his pocket onto the ground, and then he picks it up and puts it back in his pocket. So that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, we're not dealing with folks who actually know or are trained to use weapons, but I think that's the least important part here, perhaps, at least to me. I was quite literally afraid to leave my house because there were roving gangs of armed white men who were expressing sentiments like, these are our neighborhoods, these are our streets, we will not allow them to take over. That type of incendiary language is the type of language of thugs. That's the type of language of rioters. That is the language of...
It's the language of lynch mobs. Like, let's just be...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the language of lynch mobs.
Like, I'm kind of done mincing words, because apparently they are too, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think the other thing I'd like to add, I'm sorry not to step on what you're saying, but the other thing I'd like to add is, the thing that concerns me on top of that really deeply is that they have been effectively deputized by the Philadelphia police force. Like, they're out, being allowed to be out past curfew, and in one instance, they assaulted a WHYY reporter, and the cops let it fucking happen.
Yeah.
They just let it happen.
And not only that, but there are people actively supporting them in social media, claiming it didn't happen, asking for proof, even though there's photographic proof and eyewitness testimony. This did happen. These roving gangs of white men attacked a white man. There are roving gangs of white men attacking people in this city right now, threatening to attack people in this city, saying that if you are not from here, whatever that means, to them, that they will make sure you leave. I don't know how to take that other than as a threat. So, Natasha, feel free to continue.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I just want to know.
Natasha, real quick before we get back into it, I just want to let
Yeah.
you know, I just went and ran that little errand that you asked me to run, and there appears to be nothing in the neighborhood worth reporting. So
Okay, thank you so much. My grandma is a stubborn old South Philly lady who, if anything was wrong, would not tell me. So, thank you.
It was absolutely no trouble.
Awesome, thank you.
So yeah, Natasha, if you would continue with your...
Yeah, I mean, Friday was... it was disturbing. It was disturbing to see that, like, they showed up to fight us. They didn't show up, like, the irony is that if they all just stayed home and watched TV, it would have been peaceful.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it, but they didn't. They wanted to come and they wanted to hurt people. Because I was there peacefully protesting. Like, 3 water bottles should not make you push people and hit them with batons and mace them.
No, and if you consider water bottles being thrown at you a physical threat or a threat to your person, you should probably turn in your badge and gun, because you're not mentally stable enough to operate as a police officer in any capacity.
I will say the bright side of the pepper spray is it gave me like a nice little like microdermabrasion. It took off like the first layer of skin, so my skin looks amazing.
So I'm going to pull over onto the feed. I've had some requests for footage of the tear gassing. I don't have the footage of the tear gassing from the day that you're witnessing. I have footage. This is from yesterday, the incident on 676 with protesters being... This area here, I don't know if you can see my mouse on screen. I think the folks watching the stream can see it. This area here, this grassy area, is an embankment on the highway. This is 676, this piece of highway. This is a riot officer, SWAT officer. And up here, there is a tall 8-foot fence, topped by a 6-foot fence. And so there's not much of any method of egress this way. Some folks did manage to climb both fences and get away, but I will go ahead and play the video here. As you can see, none of the protesters are making any physical moves towards any of the officers. None of them are making any threat towards any of the officers. None of them are doing anything to damage or injure or in any way attack any of the officers. On my feed yesterday, I did feature some on-the-ground footage that I don't have handy right at the moment, from a different angle, that shows the protesters getting gas in their face while they're being laid over the Jersey barriers there at the side of the highway.
There's a video of them, like, they surrendered, they sat down, they surrendered in front of the cops, and the cop pulls down her mask and puts the pepper spray in her face.
I haven't seen that, but if you get it,
I can send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll be more than happy to show that. I just briefly want to talk about. There were a couple of moments of propaganda yesterday. I was included in amplifying that propaganda of officers kneeling or otherwise respecting the protest. Those officers have a duty, if they respect the protest, to stop other officers from executing or following through on bad orders. One second, I'm just downloading this video. If you have any continuing thoughts, Natasha, feel free to express them.
Sorry, I was just sending that. I mean, Friday was disturbing, but I think yesterday was the most, that was the most disturbing, that they're now taking away your right to protest. I mean, I was detained for having medical supplies. I was thrown against the wall for having medical supplies and mace supplies. And the cops told me that's ridiculous. that's ridiculous. Why would you ever have that? That's not what's actually in there. Like trying to accuse me I had some like bio warfare. And I'm like, this is dawn and water.
Okay, so here's some some video of the protests, the protesters being penned in by the state and SWAT police. And as you can see, they have not advanced down the highway to where the state police were stationed. So there is, in fact, no way that they could have done what they were accused of. They're being fired on with pepper spray, tear gas, and rubber bullets at the moment. That is pepper spray. That is a completely illegal tactic. The officer here is breaking so many laws. So this is completely against training that all officers are required to take on the use of non-lethal force. Non-lethal force here being a euphemism. Yeah, could you go ahead and ban Ray, please, from the YouTube chat, Chris? Or I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hang on.
Thanks.
And then I can't see the videos you're playing, so all I can hear like is the audio right now. And that's way more disturbing than seeing the video. Like it sounds like war.
It is war. These are actually war tactics.
I mean, it is. And that's, well, what is the solution?
The solution, in this particular case, today I am calling on people to call their city council reps and immediately ask for the city council to initiate emergency hearings into the events of yesterday. To initiate emergency hearings into the illegal escalation and illegal use of force against peaceful protesters by Police Commissioner Outlaw, and investigate Mayor Kenny for his support of Commissioner Outlaw's decisions and illegal orders. I'm asking people to call city council and ask them to go ahead and emergency investigate those things, call an emergency hearing to determine whether or not Mayor Kenny should be impeached, and determine whether Commissioner Outlaw should be fired. It is my opinion that both of those actions should be taken immediately. This is an emergency.
They should be.
I'm sorry?
They can't investigate themselves. I mean...
Yeah, they can't investigate themselves. They will find themselves clear of all charges. This is an emergency situation. There are peaceful protests going on in this city. The police commissioner and mayor are turning this into a war zone. They are turning peaceful protests into riots. The police are rioting. We need to stop this. We as citizens need this to stop.
Yeah.
I called all of my city council representatives this morning already. I urge you all to call them and express whatever your feelings are about this. But that's democracy. If you choose to support this, I fear for you as a human being. We have folks in the comments supporting these completely illegal actions, these illegal tactics by police of firing tear gas directly into the face of a peaceful protester sitting on the ground. I tell you, and if you are a member of city council, or if you are anyone who has any influence directly over police in this moment, that police chiefs and police commissioners across the country were fired yesterday for these exact same tactics. This is an illegal use of force. It is completely illegal. I don't care what some YouTube commenter says. I know that this is illegal use of force. I'm more than happy to accept actual lawyers coming onto this channel. And if any actual lawyers would like to come onto this channel and explain how this could be legally justified, then feel free. To my knowledge, all officers receive training in the use of less than lethal weapons. They are called less than lethal weapons because they are sometimes still lethal. The training that officers receive includes not firing rubber bullets directly at targets, but firing them into the ground so that they hit a target at an angle after being decelerated by an impact with another object. They also include the fact that you need to be 15 meters away from your target when you fire a less than lethal round at them. They also include the fact that you need to be a minimum of 8 to 10 feet away from a target when you fire a pepper spray can like this at people. This is a completely illegal tactic that officers should be immediately arrested. They should have been arrested on the scene, but they should be immediately arrested now, and charges should be brought against this officer for endangering the lives of those 4 protesters. Peaceful
Yeah, but now they're emboldened that, like, oh, if we don't completely annihilate these people, our president said, like, send in the trained military. So, like, what do we do at the next round of protests? Like, how do we keep... Protesters are going to take a hit. I mean, it's now, like, our right to protest is under threat. And it's become way more terrifying.
Yes, our right to protest is definitely under threat. So I had a comment in the YouTube feed: peaceful protests, busting in and looting. This Dean, I put you in timeout because this is not associated with looting. This is not associated with rioting. This is not associated with anything. This was a completely peaceful protest march. You can watch my live stream from yesterday, and you can see the process of the protest march. I commented on it before this was broken up because I knew that that this was going to be an incident. And I have seen the video of police destroying their own things. I've posted that kind of stuff onto my YouTube channel, or excuse me, my this is how flustered I am. I've posted that kind of stuff to my Twitter channel. I will only be showing video from Philadelphia here today. So while I appreciate video of the police using nefarious tactics, I'm not going to share all of it. Yeah, Chris, that video is from a protest a couple of years ago. That officer...
No, I'm aware. I just, somebody from YouTube just sent me these, and I was sending them blindly. I just looked a little bit closer before I sent them, sorry.
Yeah, I don't, they're not useful. That officer was fired, by the way, for his tactics that day. This YouTuber sent in a video of, I believe it was Cal State, might have been another California college protest, where a SWAT officer used pepper spray directly in the faces of peaceful protesters who were just sitting on the ground. Very much the same situation. And when using that pepper spray, he was found to have acted with excessive force. So, yeah. Anything else, Natasha? Do you have any other eyewitness testimony or anything else to say about what you saw and experienced? Okay. And if you do get the chance, please go ahead and share that video or any other photos and stuff with me that you want.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yesterday, like I said, I was detained for having medical supplies. They dumped it out.
Yeah, let's talk about this. The illegal taking of people's property. So we do still live under a constitution here. You cannot, as police officers, just seize people's property unless it is suspected of being used in the commission of a crime. Milk.
Oh yeah, they acted like I was filling up biochemical warfare. And I was like, these are medical supplies for when you gas people later for me to give out. Like, I had Dawn with baking soda and miniature spray bottles. You can, neutralize it that way. I had just water and little, they look like contact squirt bottles to get it out of your eyes. And when I was filling one up, that it looks like a spray bottle. It's not. I don't know how that's bio-warfare, but first it was a plainclothes person, which there's a ton of them out there, and I've noticed usually they're people of color, and that was strategic. When we were walking, I feel like they strategically put people of color for us to walk past. But that's not the point. They put us up against the wall. There was a plainclothes person with them who got us first, recording us, taking photos of us. I tried to keep my mask on for the photos. I couldn't keep my mask on for the photos.
That officer that was taking photos is part of an older task force here in Philadelphia. We used to have a task force that was specifically designed to deal with protests in any form and large gatherings in any form. They did their job with aplomb. At no point do I know of any protests turning violent during that era. And they would put officers on the ground who were in uniform but who did not have any sort of protective gear on. They always put several very high up members of the police onto the street with the protesters, and they did that so that protests wouldn't turn violent. I'm just sending my information to...
Yeah. It was interesting. There was an illegal observer that was right by us. There was a lot of legal observers out there, thank God. And the one officer kept saying, I'm not stopping your freedom of speech. I'm not stopping your freedom of speech. We're not stopping your freedom of speech. And I was like, if you say it enough, do you convince it? Why do you keep saying this?
I'm not exactly certain why they kept saying that.
It felt very odd. I mean, there was a legal observer right there. It felt strategic to say it. Because they just kept saying it over and over and over and over again.
It may have been.
Similar to the stop resisting tactic.
Yes, very similar to that.
Okay, that makes sense. We were able to go after that. And the protest was peaceful. I mean, we were outside of the precinct, and nothing's on fire, so it was peaceful. I mean, people did come ready to get messed up. People had helmets. There was a couple people with leaf blowers. That was a very good idea. But it wasn't unfounded. They weren't using those leaf blowers before there was tear gas.
Yep.
And that's the disturbing part. And then at one point we're all in a circle around, not a circle, like right in front of the police who are on bikes. They're using their bikes as a barricade, and we're all taking a knee and asking them to join us, take a knee with us. And they laughed. They sat there and laughed. Most of them just sat and smirked and laughed, and we're like, we're gonna fuck you all up later. I will say, during this whole thing, I felt bad for some cops. There still is a point of empathy where I see the terror in this person's eyes and I feel for that.
And what I would say is to all those police officers who are feeling terror, are feeling terrorized, are feeling endangered, immediately turn in your badge, immediately turn in your gun, immediately stand down, refuse to report for duty on these protests. You can do nothing there from the side of the police.
No, they can't. And all cops are bastards because they all need to be held responsible. They let their brothers and sisters murder people and said nothing. And if you're going to let murder happen and you said nothing, you are also responsible.
And as I've been repeatedly saying, folks who are on the police, who witness an illegal action on the part of another police officer, it is your duty as a sworn protector of the public to immediately arrest and investigate that other officer's actions. At the very least,
it's their duty to change the culture. There's a culture of you do not rat out your brother.
Yeah.
It's just it's their cult. It's wrong, and it's their culture. I mean, I've had it happen out there. I got pulled over when my son was 6 months old for speeding, and my boyfriend has concealed carry. And as soon as we got pulled over, he's like, "I have concealed carry," and the guy just pulled out a gun and put it right in my face. Yeah. We're on the side of 295, and he just has a gun pulled out, me and my baby, right on us for no reason whatsoever. He's allowed to have concealed carry. This guy didn't give a fuck. And another cop pulled up, and he didn't do anything. You can't put a gun in people's faces. But the other cop just let it happen because that's the culture. So how do we influence the cops' culture? Number one, we need to stop calling the police for every little fucking thing. Our communities have to be stronger than that. There has to be real community, togetherness, which is breaking right now. Or maybe it's building more. I don't know. It's just there's more long-term things to fix this.
My theory on so I've been seeing a lot of rhetoric online and different channels where all this is doing is dividing us, and my take on that is no, it's not. It's exposing the divisions that already existed. We were all on two different sides of an issue, and now that there's this flashpoint kind of event happening where people are taking very, very stark positions on it. It as much as I hate this kind of rhetoric, it becomes an us versus them type moment. And I would say, on our part, for our side of the movement, that we're not the ones driving that. We want everybody to be a part of us. It's the other side of this sort of ideological debate that is venom. You know what I mean? Like, I want police in our communities to be actual members of the community, to everybody in the community. This, the term that you use a lot, and is sort of in the canon of this type of language, is otherism, and I think that's sort of at the root cause of a lot of this.
Yeah. This is what team I'm on. If you're not on my team, fuck you.
And you're just to clarify, Natasha, there, that language is language you're quoting of the people that Chris is talking about.
Yeah, and then that's how they act. It's a brotherhood, quote unquote.
It
and
is.
I'd also like use that term brotherhood. I'd like to point out that is steeped in like patriarchy and misogyny. It's a brotherhood. It's not.
Yes.
Brotherhood is also co-opting the language of unionism, co-opting the language of African Americans, and co-opting the language of peace. Using the term brotherhood has a long history, and it is being co-opted by people who actually wish to do violence.
Well, I never thought of it like that, but that's right. I just want people to be safe. And like last night, I never thought that I would legitimately cry for my country. Like I really never thought it would happen. Like obviously we have Trump, but like it was just different. It was just different hearing like my comrades I walked with, like they will kill them. They will send the military out. You are not allowed to protest. We're going to protect your Second Amendment, but like I guess we don't need the rest of the Constitution. And that it felt like he was saying like, "Hey, you got a gun, go use it." And it's scary. I mean, it wasn't fun. Like I feel like some people look at that riot and be like, "That looks like a good time." Like I was not having fun. I was in a state of just like hypervigilance and terror and like feeling like I had a call to action and this hurts and I don't like it and I feel like I have to do it. And I would love that when my son grows up, he never ever feels like he has to have that call. That is like our rights are protected. Like I don't ever want to hear when the news is on and my son and my little cousin who's black being like, do they want to, my son was like, do the cops want to kill Riley? And I was like, what do I say to a 5-year-old who just found that out? Like, what do I say? Hey. Like, I showed up and did what I could, but like, what do we do in our communities to change this culture? And like, where does the empathy come in? Because empathy is courage. Like those cops who couldn't take a knee, like they're cowards. It's courage to take a stand for what you believe in.
Definitely is.
I'm really confused as to what is so controversial for them about, because what the rhetoric I've heard in the general national conversation is that quote unquote everybody regardless of race is on the same side with this. Supposedly everybody regardless of race is they all condemn George Floyd's killing. So if that's the case, why is this so controversial and so difficult to just kneel down in solidarity? Like it's really not asking a lot.
It's not. Because they don't want that. They want their power. I mean, if you were allowed to run around and do whatever you wanted all day, would you be willing to just give it up? How easily would you just give that up?
It's about you.
I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily something that I want for myself, but I suppose that's one of those things, like once you have it, it's the
exactly.
To pick that up is just it's non-existent.
And think about what kind of people want that kind of power. Like, I can't even kill a spider. You know what I mean? I'm not joining the police force. And then it's just going to continue to grow because now, like, people who do not feel the way as the police will not become police. But people who are, like, hardcore, like, on the police side, militarize them, those are the ones going to join the police force. Like, I've sent you a picture of it, but there was someone I went to school with, and I posted a picture of, like, my beautiful skin after the pepper spray. And he's an active police officer. And he said, if I saw you out there, I would do a lot worse to you. And I was like, he's openly doing this on social media. Imagine what he does when he's out there. Imagine how he's going to hurt people out there when he's like clearly waiting to hurt people. Like, what do you do? Like, how do we find a middle ground? Like, we're outgunned. How long can you fight?
I'd like to also address the idea that this othering idea. I am a resident of South Philadelphia. I don't know specifically where you live, Natasha.
I live in Jersey, but I grew up in South Philly. It took me out of South Philly because that's like, you know, they came from the generation where that's like the dream is to go have a yard.
And your mom still lives in South Philly?
My family lives in South Philly.
So, and Chris, you live in Philly as well, I believe.
I currently actually live in South Jersey, but I'm broadcasting right now from my girlfriend's place in South Philly, and I've lived in South Philly. I'll be moving back to South Philly in the not too distant future. But yeah, so I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I've been a lifelong Philadelphia resident. I'm currently on a little New Jersey excursion.
Yeah, so I mean, the folks that are commenting on this stuff are members of the neighborhood. We do, you know, this is our neighborhood as well. I very specifically live here. I very specifically live where there were roving gangs of angry white men, armed angry white men last night who were looking for anybody who, quote unquote, didn't look like they belonged. You know, that's just, I don't know what more to say about that or to do about that. That is just the fact. We do live here.
Well, white people need to show up for you. That's what it is.
And not just that, it's also that, you know, folks are acting like the only people that can be upset right now are people who are business owners. I am a business owner. Who are people who they're saying that people who are marching, who are rioting, don't live here. I live here. I work here. I own property here. I do business here. I am angry with the police. I am angry with Commissioner Outlaw and Mayor Kenny. I am angry with the roving gangs of armed white men, calling people the N-word, calling people fags as if that's some sort of insult. I don't know what to say other than there are people who live here, who belong here, and we all need to have a voice, and it needs to be an equal voice. You don't get to say if I get to live here. I do live here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think something that I've heard rhetorically from the types of groups that you're talking about who like think it's their neighborhood, as it were, they'll say things like, "Oh, the neighborhood wasn't like this when I grew up. There weren't people like this walking around." Yeah, because they were terrified. There were people living in your communities that you just didn't fucking see because they didn't come out in the community. They had to go and travel to other communities where they weren't afraid of you and your friends hurting them.
When I was a kid, I remember like being told black people don't cross Washington. Blacks don't cross Washington.
Yeah. Well, we definitely crossed.
That's not okay.
I grew up
sorry,
in North Philly, which was definitely a little bit different of a neighborhood and of an environment, and but there was de facto segregation in the neighborhoods, and the police presence in those neighborhoods and what the police were there to do in those neighborhoods, and also just generally like how often street sweepers came and how often the neighborhood got any kind of resources from the city. There was a huge difference, and it was almost purely on racial lines.
Yeah.
And that was the 90s. That's not long ago.
Yeah, we made a lot of progress since the 90s, and it looks like all of that progress is going away very rapidly.
Well, I feel like I am just like a background of what I come from. The family I come from is mostly a bunch of racist, terrible people. Like, my grandfather was baptized by the KKK. And then I have an aunt who was very proud of this. Like, I have always been very aware how real the KKK was because they were my family. And then I had another cousin who she married a black man. All her kids are mixed, and they refused to talk to us. And we're like, great, we hate you anyway. They're going to be dead soon, guys, so don't worry about it. But it does feel a bit of my responsibility to end it because it's obviously like my bloodline that did it. Like, I'm very Southern. My Southern family that's still there, like, they have all of their Confederate flags up. Like, they're all over Facebook. Like, I had an uncle who was like, I'm disgusted you were there. I'm disgusted by this. Like, you're not part of our family. And I'm like, great, I'm not a big fan of you. Like, and I don't want that. I want to raise my son in a way that like our next generation is like not bigots. That like he doesn't remember seeing a KKK costume in his aunt's house. Mm-hmm. Or seeing like the plaque of it on his wall. Like, I feel like I'm not supposed to say that, but it's true. Like, that's my family history. I can't help who brought me into this world, but I can't help that like we end it. Like I end it in our bloodline.
Chris, if you could check with some of the other folks that are supposed to be joining us at 11. I think I got everybody the Zoom info. If you could check with them and see if they'll be joining us.
I'll check in with them real quick.
Thank you. So some comments on YouTube. Got to change who's in charge to change policing. Agreed. You do need to change who's in charge. I think an immediate change can be made, and we can remove Mayor Jim Kenney and Police Commissioner Outlaw from being in charge. They completely lied in a public statement, a very planned and calculated lie about the excessive use of force against peaceful protesters who did nothing to instigate an increased use of force against them. It's time that this stopped. It's time that the over-policing of black and brown bodies stopped. We need this to stop today. Again, I'm calling on anybody watching to please call your city council members, phone them, leave messages, phone them again until you get somebody live on the phone. Keep phoning them, keep following up with them every day, every 24 hours, keep following up with them. Send them messages via Facebook, send them messages via Twitter, send them messages via email. All of their email addresses, while their email addresses aren't public, they all have a form submission on their city council website that will get an email directly into the hands of a staffer that works for city council. I recommend that you ask for independent investigations into the increased use of force yesterday by the police commissioner and by and the false allegations of the complete police commissioner and the mayor. I don't know if this is an impeachable offense for the mayor to make these false allegations. I do know that it is an impeachable offense for him to support illegal police actions, and that Commissioner Outlaw has ordered illegal police actions against peaceful protesters. We have plenty of video and photographic evidence of the peaceful nature of the protests, and I invite you to share that widely on social media. I invite you to send it directly to me. You can send me an email, submissions at light-thief.com. You can get in touch via any number of direct messaging systems on the internet. I'm available to respond to comments on all of these streams. And I will be happy to keep a copy of your video. I will be happy to share it out under my name and obscure the source of the video if you're afraid of police reprisal. I'm not afraid of police reprisal. I've already been threatened with police reprisal for counter-protesting a couple of weeks ago, and it does not scare me. I will not be silenced by rogue elements of the police force, and I will not be silenced by threats to my life and to my property. I just won't. You can threaten me all you fucking like. I will keep speaking. This is just yeah, so this is just a crazy morning. I'm currently running video submitted by another citizen journalist. That is their live stream. And we have joining us Mike. Mike, when you get your audio up, let me know if you want your if you want your video broadcast, or I can also just leave your video not broadcast if you'd like. Still connecting to audio. And I will protect folks in that way too. If you're worried about people coming after you, I'm more than happy to take your info, stream it out to the few followers that I have, put it on the internet in a live stream that is recorded on multiple places. Sorry, Rob. My friend Bob just contacted me via text message and said I say too much. My wife has the same criticism. I have no control over that. It's my placeholder word while I'm talking. Mike, it looks like you have your audio set up. Did you want your video set up as well? Nope. Can't hear you. Can't talk. All right. So while Mike figures out his technical issues here, I'll wait to hear from him. You're currently muted. I can unmute you.
Yeah, unmuted.
All right. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and share, and do you want me to share your video feed?
Well, I think we should wait on the video so people get an understanding about how things transpired.
I'm sorry?
I think the video should wait.
Oh, no, I meant your video feed, your visual video, like you here on the chat. I'm not currently sharing it with the public, but I can if you want.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you know.
Okay. Pin video on the second screen. There you go. This is Mike, everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself however you'd like to be identified. And please go ahead and tell your story.
Is that for me, James?
Yes. Yes, Mike.
Well, the story is, demonstration started promptly. The various speakers were impassioned and made linkages at the Philadelphia police headquarters, interlocking issues of George Floyd, Philadelphia policing in general, and connecting it with social structure beliefs. And the crowd was really, really big there. I was rather impressed, and it grew afterwards as people started to arrive in. Basically the entire block and the lawn across the street were almost filled to capacity.
And this was at, just to be clear, this was at PPD HQ?
Yeah, Philadelphia Police Headquarters, the Roundhouse on 8th and Race Street, really.
Okay, and what happened next?
Well, after the speakers made various declarations and gave various experiences and provided various explanations, the demonstration took off in a march. It went east, and then it went south towards Market, and people were on what's called Market East and walked west. And Market East, for those who don't know, is a major commercial corridor. And from my perspective, I noticed that the area along the march route was just filled with police. They either made perimeters, they cut off streets, or they were on side streets. This of course comes after 2 prior days of very tumultuous expressions of disgust throughout the city. It still continued into last night. Elsewhere, we're not talking about yesterday's demonstration that I was in, but the march went a couple miles, maybe 2. It went past City Hall, and it went north on Broad Street, and then it went west, I think on Race Street, and it made the Grand Avenue of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and people headed towards the Art Museum. And by now we're talking thousands of people, lots of millennials, Generation Z folks, and even younger folks than that. It was highly multiracial, very white, significantly white people support, being allies, which I noticed made a lot of people happy. And the Parkway was filled, and people were marching to the towards the Art Museum, and that's when things really got interesting. That's when certain events took place on Interstate 676, which is a highway that runs through a cross section of the downtown. And I can get into that if you want, if you want, because
yeah. What did you see? Did you see any support for the police commissioner and mayor's accusation that that protesters penned in and made it impossible for a state police officer to escape his vehicle?
Well, I wasn't that far up. I was up on a hillside. I can say this. People marched onto the interstate from 22nd Street, and they walked down an exit ramp. And then I heard some tear gas canisters go off. I'm sorry, let me just interrupt for a moment. So that first piece of information contradicts the mayor and police commissioner's statement that people defeated fencing to enter 676. They did not defeat fencing. They did not do any damage. They did not break any laws. They simply walked onto 676. Sorry, continue, please. Well, I saw people walk down the on-ramp. I'm not aware that the steel or aluminum fencing was taken down. That's a very solid structure. There was a construction type fence, the plastic barriers for environmental concerns. That was down, and that was down before people marched. So with regards to the claim of the mayor and the police commissioner, I have some doubts, because that fence and that embankment area for the highway allowed a lot of people to escape after the flashbang grenades went off and the tear gas canisters started flying. As to the mayor and the police commissioner's claim further, their attitude is kind of like, well, we're going to have to listen, we're going to have to believe the police. And from my understanding, number one, the police scanners are down. They went up this morning again. So to corroborate that claim, that's kind of difficult. And there are probably at least two efforts to impeach the statements of the public officials. Number one, there's a group there's an email that I haven't been able to verify, peoplephiladelphia@gmail.com, who says we want to collect people's video and people's pictures. And then another group that would probably be interested in this, and they're more well known, but I'm also speculating, is the Up Against the Law Collective, which is a lawyers organization that does legal defense for social justice activities in the event of arrest or in the event of a litigation need. So there's a tension. There's a big tension, and it's only starting to develop about what actually occurred. Someone that I know who's a single parent went to the demo and he said, I got tear gassed, I took a knee, and I had my hand in the air. And this person is actually pretty responsible and reasonably well known. So for him to say we weren't really doing anything lets me have some belief that the whole story hasn't come out yet, which means that the truth hasn't come out yet.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I feel that the whole story has come out. I was watching video from multiple angles yesterday, and from multiple people, all at the same time. And the video that I saw clearly shows underneath the overpass where the helicopters were not covering. And shows, protesters just marching. It does not show any sort of interaction with police until the police instigated interaction. But feel free to continue your testimony. I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that I believe that the story has come out. That the statement from the police commissioner and from the mayor is a complete falsehood, and a narrative designed to drive sympathy towards the police. But yeah, please continue.
Well, if you saw video, you had a better vantage point than me, and I'm certainly willing to listen. I can also concur that the police did act up because I could hear the vehicles coming down the highway from an east to west direction, and quite frankly, if you saw video, you had a better view than me because I'm on an embankment, and I got one of the streets crossing the highway blocking my view, and I just have to use my experience to put 2 + 2 together.
Right. So, what did you witness after that?
Well, after I realized that there was a counter-protest activity going on by the police, I got a whiff of tear gas, and I was like, "Oh, it's coming," and they gave no warning that I could tell from the highway vehicles, nothing over speakers. The helicopter that was overhead, circling around, didn't give any warnings. So I hear boom boom, smell tear gas, and then in effect a giant panic, swarms of a stampede running away, and the people on the highway reversed course, crossed the median. The concrete medium on the highway, ran up the exit ramp, ran up the embankment that I was on, and there were people who were choking, gagging, wheezing, trying to watch things once they got to the crest of the embankment. And I was like, no, keep going. Because also at this time, there were several police lines that were starting to organize themselves. On 22nd Street, where the exit ramp is, police started to make a perimeter. And on 20th Street to the north, there is the 9th Precinct, 9th Philadelphia Police Precinct. And they started to organize themselves. So if you have a push from the west and a push from the north, people on Ben Franklin Parkway can get corralled in. So that's one thing. And another thing is that the wind at that time was blowing from the west to the east. So if the police fired tear gas, smoke, white smoke, pepper spray, they had the wind at their back. So I was recommending to people that we're going to need to move, and we're going to need to get into more open space. And my recommendation was get to 20th Street, which is where the Ben Franklin Parkway really begins on the east side. There's a park. There's 6 lanes in the northbound roadway, and you've got the public library. So it's a good space to be in because there's the ability to move and not get penned in. So that happened for quite some time. People started migrating and moving towards 20th Street. By this point, I don't have a good understanding of what the police are doing. I'm concluding that they may engage in policing tactics to disrupt the demonstration. And then maybe 20 minutes later, might even be 30, the remaining demonstrators, still a very sizable group, because the demonstration could have been up to 5,000 people. We marched from the 20th Street area over to City Hall and made our way back to the Philadelphia Police Headquarters. So the tear gas to assist with the timeline, the police use of the tear gas started at around 5 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock is the city curfew. And by 6 o'clock, people were at the police station, and then it went on to past 7. And the police seemed to be getting a little antsy. They wanted to enforce the curfew. The police started setting up more perimeters over by the Vine Street Express, over by Vine Street, over on 7th Street. And they started to add to their complement of police officers on 8th and Race Street, patrol officers, then bike force, strike officers came, and then the horses came. The police on horsebacks came, and I was like, they're getting ready. The demonstrators surrounded this police contingent to the west and started going back towards City Hall, and that, I believe, stopped their plans to have the horses run through and have the police push demonstrators away. as I learned later, after 7 o'clock at City Hall, the police started to enforce the curfew and made several arrests. I saw that on the news. So that's what's going. That's what went on yesterday. I was there for well over 4 hours. I think that's fair. And if anyone wants to go to a demonstration today, there's one at King of Prussia, Henderson Road and Route 202, and there's a demonstration in Bridgeport, PA, which involves the mayor. He ordered a street closure for the demonstration.
I'm sorry, what city is that in?
Bridgeport.
Okay.
Also, I just want to I now live in Jersey, and I'm trying to set a peaceful protest up where I live. So if anyone has any ideas that they want to contribute to me, that would be very helpful. All I do is put together comedy shows, so that's my only experience, but I think it's really important right now for the suburbs to be peacefully protesting because we can do it right now. They're not, listen, they have tanks, you know what I'm saying, but they're not mobilized right this second.
Right.
And I think it's really important to keep the momentum up and have everyone do it, not just the cities, in solidarity. And, so if anyone has any tips or has any ideas, I would be much appreciative.
Well, the easiest way to do a peaceful protest, they can be organized as events on Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I'm making right now.
You need to check your local laws to see if your city or any area that you plan on protesting in has gathering permits required. I know some folks think that it's not a valid form of protest if you get a permit, but it's still a valid form of protest if you get a permit.
Yeah, I want everyone who would show up to be absolutely safe.
Right. So get a permit if required. Permits in the city of Philadelphia used to, I don't know if they still do, require paying some amount of money for overtime for police officers, so expect that you may come into a financial need in order to achieve your goal. And if there are groups you can contact, there are Black Lives Matter groups and other groups anywhere near you that are familiar with organizing protests already or have done protests in your location. Consider contacting their organizers because they'll have more specific information than I do.
That's all really good ideas, and I will do that. I'd like to do my part, and I think it needs to happen out here too.
Mike A asks on YouTube, did any police get arrested? Not to my knowledge, Mike. The mayor and police commissioner of Philadelphia released a joint statement last night that basically absolves them of all culpability and says, in essence, that the police did nothing wrong. So I don't think that they're planning at this moment to arrest any police officers. I'm gonna play. I believe this video is from Mike. I'm gonna play it on the screen here and let you folks watch it. This is 676. This is from up on the embankment, and this is the protest marchers proceeding, looks like westbound on 676. And I have, I believe, a second video of the same thing. And as you can see, they're not violent. They're not even interacting with the cars that are there.
This shit crazy. They should have killed him. They should have killed that man.
And no, you're right, Mike, that is on YouTube. There is nothing wrong here by the police in this video. I'm going to delete you off of the YouTube comments at this point because you're calling me a liberal ass Antifa. As I've explained before, and will explain again and again, probably ad nauseum, Antifa does not have a membership role. It is not an organization per se. There are organized cells of protest organizers and action organizers that claim the name Antifa, but Antifa is short for anti-fascist. So unless you believe in a fascist government-controlled ruling system, then you are in fact Antifa. If you believe in the Second Amendment, you are in fact Antifa. If you believe in the personal ownership of firearms, you are Antifa. If you believe in the First Amendment, the right of the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble, the freedom to freely associate, you are in fact Antifa. We fought a World War II about this, and fascists lost. Antifa is anti-fascism. So unless you are all about fascism, then you are actually Antifa. If anybody else has anything to input on that, let me know.
Do you think they're going to use that to charge any of the protesters with terrorism?
I don't think so, not at this point. I don't think that they are, that they're trying to use that at this point. So I think that that is a federal government push to try and drive that. I don't think that's a local government push.
The only thing I'd like to add about to the whole Antifa discussion is basically just to tag on to what there isn't a single part of the Bill of Rights or any amendment or really any part of the Constitution that would not be classified as or categorized as an idea that is Antifa. Like as you expressed very plainly. But I wanted to extend it to the entire document. The entire document of the United States is anti-fascist.
Great. Somehow he was unhidden, but he's hidden again. Great. Awesome. So, Mike on YouTube can no longer comment. Mike is a dickhead, and if he thinks I'm Antifa, he's correct. I will proudly say I'm anti-fascist. So, what else have we learned today? I need to respond to a message here. Some folks are really urgently trying to get a hold of me. But if anybody else has anything else to say at this moment, feel free. And Chris, if you could make sure our other guest gets on chat, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I sent them the group information. I think they're trying to get a hold of you about some stuff that they sent you. I'll touch base with them now.
Okay.
Oh, they said their computer's a bit slow, so it might just be technical difficulties at the moment.
I see. They can join via cell phone as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we've had two eyewitness testimonies. I am currently looking at other eyewitness testimonies, but Chris, do you know if this person who is sending me info wanted to stay anonymous? I don't have everything.
I will ask them.
At any rate, let me.
Oh, actually, no. I remember they've been very open about posting on their personal Facebook, and I remember discussing with that last night. They're fine with showing their face, and I'll get confirmation on their name.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just concerned if I pull these videos up on Facebook, their name will be revealed. Does anybody know about any actions happening today that are planned actions, planned protests?
I do not. I checked the Black Lives Matter Philly Facebook page last night as we were sort of ending the stream, and they did not have anything posted as of last night. So I would imagine that at least that organization is not active today.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much of anything today in regards to organized protest, just because a lot of the organized protests were done yesterday. The last of the planned organized protests were done yesterday. And I don't know of any organized protests moving forward. So I am running out of energy here with regards to I don't know how much any one person can be expected. This is an interesting shot, I believe from our guest Mike as well. This is shooting westbound along 676. It is the group of protesters, and you can see all the way down 676, clear up under the bridges. And you can see that there is no police presence in this body of protesters. You can see that they are peacefully protesting. You can see that the vehicles that stopped along 676 stopped voluntarily. They were not blocked. They were not asked. They were not damaged in any way. They were not assaulted by the protesters.
Those people were held in place. The vehicles were held in place longer by the police around 40 individuals, like searching and arresting 40 individuals right there on the highway.
Hey Devin, good to see you. When you've connected your audio, just let me know if you want to be identified fully by name and introduce yourself, and if you want your video shown.
Yeah, I don't mind being identified by name.
And do you want your video shown, or like your video feed to me shown, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Let me add you to the second screen here. Wrong person.
Sorry it took so long. My computer can be kind of slow.
No worries. Devin, please introduce yourself. Feel free to express your pronoun preference, whatever else you'd like to say.
Devin Salerno, they, them, and here to tell you guys the truth and show you guys
Awesome.
what we're
Thank
looking
you.
for.
Would you go ahead and just tell us briefly about your experience? And were you in the march yesterday?
Yeah, I've been protesting for the past 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's been honestly very different experiences each day. Yesterday was so terrifying when they were throwing those tear gases at us. I mean, they were trapping people on the highways, and people were crawling over the fences in fear. And I was washing so many eyes out and writing support. But we're all at the same time. We marched all over the city with so many numbers, and it was so fucking powerful. Oh, fuck. And like, sure, we may have got the cops to kneel for a photo around 8, but again, they still tear gassed the fuck out of us before that. And the mayor and the commissioner are going around saying that we were throwing rocks at them on the highways and that they gave us warnings before they tear gassed. That did not happen at all. They're literally fabricating lies about this as we speak.
I'm just gonna share a photo of, one of your videos that you have that you streamed to your Facebook Live yesterday. I'm sharing it on another screen of my computer, so unfortunately the members of the chat here can't watch it with us. But I just wanted
I'll
to
send them the YouTube link, or I'll send. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is outside of PPD HQ.
George Floyd! 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 Water.
All right. So I just wanted to talk briefly about this. So this is the protest outside PPD HQ. As you can see, it is completely nonviolent. Folks are chanting. There's plenty of police presence. Nobody is making any moves towards the police. Nobody's injuring police. Nothing like that. So you were obviously in the crowd, Devin, and did you have any thoughts on this moment?
I thought that perhaps it is a small step in the right direction, but overall it seems more like a PR stunt for them to look better, because all around the country cops are kneeling, but then 10 to 15 to an hour later they're still beating the shit out of those protesters that they just kneel. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, beating the shit out of people. I mean, we told them that we would leave after they kneeled, and many of us did. Not too sure what happened after that. Again, small steps, but we're not here to make small steps anymore, are we?
Yeah. So I'm gonna next share your video. This appears to be on the Parkway. This is along the Parkway, which runs from City Hall to the Philadelphia Art Museum. And
they're crawling over the fences like animals. Look at what they've done to us. They are all trapped.
so this is momentarily you'll see the initial uses of tear gas.
Let's not stray too far from them. Look at that.
It was heartbreaking seeing those.
They're crawling over the fences.
Crawling over the fence like that. One of my best friends was there. Another one got arrested. One of them, a couple of them got out. I gave them the biggest hug.
Can we go regroup with them?
When I saw them after that, they were literally being treated like animals, those protesters. And they were being peaceful. No rocks thrown at all.
Come on, let's go regroup with them. Look at that.
So that siren you hear is the police mass arrest bus trying to get through the crowd. That video there is of the PPD helicopter flying low over the crowd.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to distract us from what was really going on with all the noises.
Does anybody need any eyewash?
I'm currently asking if anybody needs any eyewash.
Yes, I have plenty of supplies too, if you want like to send them my way as well.
Hey, are you guys okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Be safe. Is everybody okay? Does anybody need eyewash? What do we do? You mean it didn't move very long? Look at this, they're dropping too good.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from your video, that at this point the tear gas had been released at least once. That line, that police line to the left of your video just a moment ago, was the line that was blocking the Vine Street Expressway. That was circumvented by the brilliant tactic of walking on the lawn. So not a very difficult police line to circumvent, or very well protected, or
tell her to send me friend request or put us in the
sorry?
Person that sent the police?
Whoever your friend that wants to go to the office.
Oh, expensive.
Yeah. I don't know who sent these.
Chris, I just muted you for a moment because you were still unmuted. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Where do we go?
Honestly, from what I've heard from people up in front of me, it seemed like the police were directing us to go into the highway so that they could get the footage of them tear gassing us. I'm not 100% sure on those accounts, but I don't think I'd be surprised, and I don't think anybody here would be surprised.
Does anybody need any eye wash? Does anybody need any eye wash? Are you okay? Do you need some eye wash? Okay. I'm gonna spray it on you. Don't rub it in, just dab it, and when you get home, wash with cold water, okay? No hot water. It'll get in your skin. Okay, do you need anything else? You have some water. Okay. Be safe, okay?
Yes, I had to provide quite a bit of support to the people who were experiencing worse. Luckily, I had goggles. I still felt the tear gas, but it helped a bit, so I could help those others. All those tears were heart-wrenching, and all the coughing, and all the screaming. And this is the stuff that has been going on for decades and decades. We're just finally doing something about it. Finally, I take back that finally. Just doing something big about it now.
Everywhere. Nick! You good?
Is it weird to say that we kind of look alike?
You and me?
Yeah.
No. I'd say that'd be accurate.
Is this the violent riots that everybody was talking about? This is the violence! On the tear press! On the flashbang! That's the violence!
So what would you say? I know for many of you, you've been out, for a few days. I was out only on the Saturday. But I guess my question for each of you would be, in your own experience, what was the most powerful thing that you saw, like powerful moment or powerful event that you saw that spoke the most to you, that either encapsulated the spirit of it, or in any way, like really meant a lot to you that you could share?
Like in a good way or a bad way?
That's up to you. Whatever you want to share about it that you feel like is a powerful thing, and that people, it would be beneficial for people to hear.
Okay, I mean, I think the most wholesome, powerful thing was seeing people really come together and want to protect each other against our common enemy, and hearing and seeing white people willingly go to the front and willingly take the hit on Saturday at that statue was really moving. That they believed that much in it. And I would say the most disturbing thing was seeing them laugh while we asked them to take a knee. They could have, they didn't want peace. That isn't their goal. At that moment, I realized this isn't their goal. They want submission. They want us to be their bitch. They want their power, and they're going to keep it, and they will hurt you. They only care about their Second Amendment. They do not give a shit about the laws. And that's what's most scary. They're hold them accountable. Who's holding them accountable? The whole damn thing is fucked.
We're holding them accountable.
I just hope it works. I just hope it's not... You're right, we are holding them accountable. And I, thank you all for, being there and doing that. I just hope it's enough to change that culture and make them think twice.
I would like to thank Kat for joining and just recognize that they joined. Kat, would you introduce yourself and your pronouns and how you'd like to be addressed during this broadcast and whether or not you'd like your video shown?
Hi, I'm Kat, they, them. I am from New York. I work primarily in theater there, and so I've been following a lot of what's happening in the New York scene. I'm just trying to get a perspective on what's happening in the rest of the country, so thank you for letting me join and letting me watch this. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining, and feel free to comment from a New York perspective on anything that you happen to see, or you know, I know the protests in New York have been going a mixture of poorly and well, as well, and that police have been using the vehicle push tactic quite a lot, which basically amounts to vehicular assault with a deadly weapon. I don't know. I haven't seen that used here in Philadelphia. Philadelphia police have been enforcing from foot and horse. They have not, as far as I've seen, used vehicles during enforcement, except for to arrive or depart from a location. Go ahead.
I guess you'd say they were cutting out into us a bit, speeding up when they were going by us. Nobody got hit by a car, but it seemed like they were trying.
Or at the very least, using that as an intimidation tactic, the threat of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can see, even after the tear gas and bottling incident on 676, protests remained peaceful. Protesters continued marching. They remained peaceful when confronted with picket lines from the police. They did not antagonize or interact in a negative way with the police. They continued to be peaceful even though they had been recently fired on with tear gas and not less than lethal weapons. Yeah. Folks are asking me not to say so much. I don't know how.
And honestly, that's what, back to that question earlier, that's one of the most powerful things that I've seen recently, is that throughout all of this pushback from the police, is that no matter what, people are still doing their best to remain peaceful. I mean, both Saturday and Sunday, when we all got those alerts on our phones of the curfew at 6 o'clock, this is actually in the first video and one of the last videos I sent you, that when the curfew was about to hit, we would just kneel down and throw our hands up and not move, to tell, almost as if to tell Kenny that we're not afraid and that we're not going to back down.
I really like hearing that we're not afraid and we're not going to back down. Like, it's refreshing to hear someone else say that. Because it's like, it's conflicting to me. Like, I do not want to back down. Like, that's what they want. They want the submission. But then, like, seeing people get hurt, like, there's just something deep inside of me that, like, it hurts. It hurts to see. Like, yeah, and it's exhausting. I'm tired today. I'm exhausted. I sound like such a bitch. I'm like, my legs hurt. But it's exhausting. Like, I will have to, probably after this, I'm just like not going on social media for the rest of the day because, like, I just hope everyone, like, you just take care of yourself. Like, don't burn yourself out because then you can't fight anymore. Like, I just hope everyone there takes care of themselves today.
I would say that there is a movement to have a social media blackout today. Unfortunately, because of the choices of Mayor Kenny and because of the choices of Commissioner Outlaw, we can't do that. We cannot social media blackout right now. We can't speak the way that we want to speak because they chose to take this time to have a false narrative. If you all will excuse me for a minute.
Social media seems like the only way we can get this information across to the people.
No, you're right. But it hurts.
Yeah, of course it hurts.
But how, like, what do you do to, like, separate it? Like, to still watch out for yourself, but, like, also... I mean, there has to be some sacrifice. Like, it's gonna hurt, but...
Well, I've opted out of going out today because, again, I've been out for the past 3 days.
Okay.
But still, I posted a few statuses that I'll, like, give some of the supplies that I have to my friends, and I'm going to try and still keep everyone updated on my Facebook with as much information as I can. It's so hard. It may be hard to fight this fight, but it's even harder to just sit back and do nothing.
No, you're right. I mean, I sound like a whiny bitch right now. I'm sorry. That's not what I'm...
No, you absolutely do not, Tasha. You spent 3 days out on the front lines. You've been pepper sprayed. You've been verbally abused. You've been harassed. Like, you take a break. It's okay. Like, it's, you know, everybody needs a break at some point. And like you said, if you just keep going and going, you're gonna burn yourself out. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and isn't that the point of, like, having comrades and community is, like, then the next person steps up. Like, I just hope we all check on our comrades today. Like, check on them and just tell them you love them, you know? Sounds corny, but it felt really nice when, like, my good friends were like, are you okay today? Like, how do you feel? And I was like, that felt better. Thank you.
Yeah, even like you said, even just reaching out to somebody, that can go a long way to be just a boost of morale. Like, just, you know, after being out and getting abused and being in a dangerous environment, just hearing somebody speak to you that cares about you can go a long way. So if you have any of your friends out there that have been out there, you know, fighting the fight, just check in on them and make sure they're doing okay.
Self-care is important. Allowing self-care is important. Not getting burned out is important. Knowing how you feel is important. Processing thoughts and feelings is important. And it's perfectly legitimate.
Yeah, and how do you guys feel today? But, like, how you feeling today after it?
Well, I don't want to cut off Devin because Devin's younger than me, but if Devin isn't ready to prepared to say anything, I'll remark on how I feel.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm tired.
We all...
Yesterday was brutal in some respects, and it was wonderful in other respects. I you know, I've been at this a while, and I was out there for like 6 hours. When after the tear gas hit, I had to use my my first aid training, and I'm helping people up the hill, carrying people who can't breathe, washing eyes out. And I actually feel fortunate that I have certain skill sets, and I was there to use them, but I'm not a youngster anymore, and I'm hopeful about what I see, and I hope that it turns into a movement, really develops into a movement, because individual acts can only do so much. Institutional organizing can do a lot more. And we have to make these connections. Connections with our present, with our present, connections with our past. How do we use that? How do we organize? How do we create a better future that can be implemented?
I mean, I feel like this is already moving past the term movement. I mean, this 1 weekend, this 1 week, and who knows how longer it's going to go on for. This is going to be written down in the history books. I'm sure you can actually write a whole book about the things that have caused this and the things that this is going to lead to. Hopefully.
No, I think you really nailed it there, Devin. I think this is going to be generation defining for a lot of people. There's going to be, it's not just going to be a footnote in the history books. This is going to be things that books, movies, plays are written about. This is going to be a huge cultural touchstone, no matter which way things go from here, you know? And, you know, the old saying is always like, the victor is the history is written by the victor. So let's do everything we can to make sure we're the victors and history gets written the right way this time.
And regardless, the eyes of the world are on us right now. Hopefully we can get, I mean, with the way the media is reporting things, it's a lot harder for other countries to see us. But if anybody has other friends in other countries, I definitely suggest showing them these things that are happening and showing them the videos that you have and the videos that you see and everything you can, because, hey, because this isn't going. Foreign intervention would really help right now with our movement, because a lot of people can see the problems. I mean, there's protests. On Friday, I heard there was protests in London, in Canada, in Japan, and all other places. People supporting us all over the country.
Yes, there are protests pretty much everywhere right at the moment. All in support of George Floyd, and in support of end to police violence. I just admitted to Lissa. Would you mind introducing your? Well, firstly, just let me know if you want your video to be seen on the live stream, if that's okay with you, and how you'd like to be introduce yourself and how you'd like to be addressed.
The video's fine. I'm Lisa. I'm here vibing. The rest of whatever.
Where are you from? And what brings you here today?
Well, right now I live in Fishtown, and I was yesterday at the 676 protest. But I was not on the highway, I was further up, so I was able to get out pretty quickly. And then I got back home, and right away the Fishtown white supremacists were right outside my window. So both things happened back to back yesterday for me, and that was fun.
I'd just like to say I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you. I'm glad you're safe as well.
I'm glad you're both safe as well.
Yeah.
It seems crazy that we have to. I'm sorry. I just got off of the phone with Councilman Green. As I had put out a call to everybody watching. I've also put out a call on Facebook. I've also contacted City Council via as many means as I could before I started this video. And it's running a little bit long. I apologize for that. I want to get the stories of everybody out there. I just spoke with Councilman Green and expressed the same things that I expressed via text message and via this medium. And one of those things is I, as a black man, do not feel safe in this city. I have never before considered myself unsafe to the point of needing protection in this city. There are literal roving gangs of armed white men who are saying things like they're looking for anybody who doesn't look like they belong in the neighborhood, and their determination of who looks like belongs in the neighborhood is completely in their hands. So that's what we tend to call a posse, and that is that's what we tend to call a posse. That is illegal. Let me find where that echo is coming from. But anyway, I think it's crazy that we have to be glad that we're all safe. Be glad that nobody was injured last night. And I would just like to thank you for joining us. And would you mind just telling us your experience of yesterday's protest from start to finish?
Yeah. So yesterday, me and my friends got to the 8th and Cherry police headquarters. Very, very peaceful protest for the entire time that we marched from there over towards the art museum. Luckily for me and my friends, during that later part, while we were like getting towards the parkway, me and my friends went to the side for a second to like stop and drink water, and that we actually went from like very decently near the front of the march to almost the entire back, which made it so that when we started to see the bus full of police drive by, the police vehicles, the SWAT team trucks, all of them drive by, we were like on the other side of the parkway essentially. And then as we tried walking towards it, that's when everybody started being like, oh no, they're putting pepper spray, at first they were saying. And it seemed like it wasn't, it seemed like it was like, it dissipated pretty quickly, and we walked forward a little bit more. And then we saw the commotion of people running up the highway on that one side where the fence wasn't fully built, like where the orange construction fencing was. So we saw a bunch of people jumping up from that. And at that point, we were confused because we could not see what was happening. And then pretty soon, like a little bit of, like a whiff of tear gas hit all of us at the same time, I would say. Like we weren't really affected by it, but all three of us were like, we gotta get out of here pronto. So we were able to run. We ran up towards Spring Garden, and I had a roommate that could come and pick us up and bring us all home safely. And then I got home, I take a shower to make sure that I don't have anything on me. This was like a precaution. And as soon as I got out of the shower, I looked outside my front window, and the Fishtown Bat Brigade was outside of my window, which was not the welcome home I wanted. But yeah, then the bat situation happened. I'm not sure if anybody's talked about that on.
We haven't. I've briefly mentioned it. We haven't talked about it, but would appreciate your perspective. I don't. How long have you lived in Fishtown? Just out of curiosity.
I moved over here a couple months ago from West Philly, about 10 months ago. So almost a full year, and I moved here because I work up here. Like, I worked at a restaurant that was like a minute away from my house, and now I work at a restaurant that's more based so in Kensington. And I've been up here. I know a lot of people up here because of those two jobs. So this whole thing has been fun to see where those people lie politically and race-wise. But yeah, so I've been living up here for almost a full year. And yeah, so the bat guys were outside of my window. At first we stayed inside just because I was like, I'm not equipped right now to see them or face them. So we stayed inside, and then we saw them walk down Girard towards the train station, and then we all of a sudden saw them run back up towards Columbia again. And then we were like, why are they running up? Like, did the cops actually do something now? Because at that point it was established that the precinct up the street didn't care and was on their side. So we were confused as to why they were running. Like, hypothetically, they would have nothing to be running from. But 10 minutes later or so, my one roommate went to go check Citizen, and she saw that there was like a pretty active report of like a police requesting backup thing over by Columbia. So at that point, we all like went to go see what was happening, because a block away from our house there was police lining up. Because I could see even from my house that like there were, I would say, 10 to 15 police cars all lined up on Girard, two lines of police facing each way on Columbia, one towards like where Penn Treaty Park is, and one up towards the Front Street side. Two lines of police on Columbia. On the one side of the line, there was the white supremacists, and on the other side, there was protesters. And pretty much, I didn't hear them yell at the white supremacists. That was like the side that was closer to where I live. And, obviously the police were talking to them pretty calmly and talking to the residents that were standing outside, just being like, well, shrugging, acting very calm. And then I went to the other side to see what was happening over there, and the police were like, you all need to go home. And pretty much anybody, because at that part of Girard, after like the curve on like East Girard on that side, most people would live on the other side of where the police were blocking off. So every single person was like, well, we need to get through to be able to go home. And the police would not break the line. And then the riot squad came up and stood in front of the police. And then they brought the SWAT van, or SWAT truck up. And, like, pretty immediately, the guy popped up with a tear gas gun, I'm assuming. And at that point, I was like, I've dealt with this once today. I'm in my pajamas now. I'm very ill-equipped to deal with this happening on my street. And at that point, most of the protesters realized that it wasn't worth, this situation at that particular moment was not worth getting tear gassed over, because at that point, white supremacists were long gone. I actually had a friend that told me, like, showed me his text from his friend saying that basically they disbanded, but were in smaller groups of, 2, 3, 4. They were in smaller groups and they were just like harassing more people. Like they harassed this guy because he looked like he was part of Antifa because he had a black hoodie and sunglasses, which he's like, I am, but I told them that I just like metal because he didn't want to get, harassed by 3 white men with bats.
On the screen with you, sorry to interrupt, on the screen with you, I'm just bringing up the thread by John Eherns. He's a KYW news reporter who was there on the scene. He is a visibly unmelanated person, and he was going back and forth between the two sides, taking pictures and video. So he was bypassing police, and he had seen the group of bat-wielding white guys coming down the street and started taking their pictures and following them. And he posted updates as he went along. So I'm just showing that on the screen with you, so that you know. So sorry, continue your story.
Yeah, I saw that thread after I got home because at that point when I was out trying to check, it was a half because I knew it was the bat guys, half because I just wanted to check on what was happening near where I live. So I saw that thread after I got home. That's the thread where he got attacked, right?
Yes.
I saw that thread when I got home, and that filled in some gaps as to why everybody was standing outside. Yeah, so after the tear gas popped up, the crowd pretty much dispersed, but at that point also they had the bike cops come up Columbia behind where the protesters were and prevented them from going in that direction. So in order to get home, you could only go pretty much down Girard towards where I live without problem. And I can't even guarantee that would be without problem if you were, like, the thing is I looked like somebody who just walked out of their house. I was, like, in pajamas and slippers, like, hypothetically, I'm not, with my face covered, with my bike and all that stuff, but, like, a lot of people had been coming from the later Center City protests up with their bikes and everything, so I'm not sure how they dealt with cops. I heard a lot of shouting out of my window from the bike cops as they, like, circled people who were just trying to go home at that point. And I heard them yelling a lot about the curfew or whatever. But curfew doesn't apply to the bat guys.
No, apparently curfew does not apply for white guys with bats. So the video coverage continues from John Eherns through a couple of incidents that happened. There's this guy that I currently have paused running away from the crowd of bat wielders. He's a black man, and he was alleged to have a hatchet, while there were white men publicly holding hatchets in front of the police in the previous clip. This black man, however, the police and folks in the group chased down they like 45 people chase him down, and then they place him under arrest.
It's over. Everyone off the street.
Cowboys, of course, right?
It's over. Everyone off the street.
I understand. Yeah, whose bike is this? And all he did was run. Go inside, everyone. Good, you're good, good. I had Romy the whole time. It's a knock.
John had filmed from several angles. He filmed the folks who stood in solidarity with Floyd, taunting the folks that were wielding bats. And we saw this on helicopter footage. The woman here was apparently reporting the fact that the men standing across the street were out after curfew. And the men on this side of the street were cheering because they were being allowed to stay.
Joe Smith. Joe Smith. Yo, open the street up. Let them be free.
Return with white privilege.
Fucking embarrassed.
See prominently a Roofers Local 30 shirt there. The guy in the plain white T-shirt, not this one, but the guy that asked the protesters to stand aside so that the street would be opened, seemed to be somewhat in charge of the group. Several posts by John of more and more police officers showing up. And then I forget exactly how long later, possibly about an hour later, he posted a photo of himself and his injuries. His eye is swelled shut, and he's bleeding from the side of his nose because, according to his allegations, he was beaten up by the group of bat-wielding men for recording them. And if anybody else has any input onto that, I welcome it. I don't have much more that I know how to say about that.
Well, James, are you aware of the discussion about this event by Lauren Rinaldi?
Yes, Lauren is one of my Facebook friends. There's a large discussion. She's an artist here in Philadelphia, and she has a very public Facebook feed, and she has a lot of commentary coming from neighborhood folks about this group of men, mostly defending them. It's a pretty toxic environment for people of color. I was called several names in those comments, and I admittedly antagonized folks in the comments in the hopes of having some of them reveal their addresses publicly, but wasn't really going to do anything with it. I just wanted to see how dumb they were.
Low bar.
Yeah.
I mean, like, is there anything that, like, white people can do to mitigate anything?
Yeah, I would say there is. There are several things. Allyship in this situation really
like, I'm a white woman. Those white dudes aren't hitting me.
Right. Yeah.
They're not. And then like it's like a thing. Like they think they like want to. I'm related to all of them. Like they want to like protect you. Like I'm very good at talking to them because I'm sure I'm related to someone out there doing it right now. Honestly, they're pieces of shit. Like I just wish there was a way that like white people need to address the situation. You shouldn't have to take the hit because they're just gonna call you the N-word. Like that's.
And they did call me the N-word in comments and then immediately deleted
They've been
them.
waiting for an excuse to call you the N-word for years.
Sure, they absolutely have.
They've been saying it inside their house. They couldn't wait to say it outside.
Yeah.
Like.
I'm sure some of these people have been saying it outside for many, many years.
Oh, no, they haven't. And they've been complaining that they can't say it outside for many, many years. That they shouldn't. I mean, like, I'm not even going to repeat the word. It's not okay for me to say.
So, yeah, allyship is key in this moment. We definitely need allies. People of color need allies in this moment. We need folks who are visibly unmelanated to step in. There were some posts around allyship for people who were visibly from of Middle Eastern descent during the time immediately after 9/11. I don't have that handy, but the effort, the needed steps are the same. You don't want to engage the folks that are being violent because that's what they want. You want to engage the people of color and stand beside them or stand in front of them. Be their shield. Be the target of the folks that are attacking the people of color. Get in the way. Don't engage with them because that's exactly what they want. They want the conversation to continue. They want to be able to continue to express their hatred, and that means being able to engage with somebody. If they're not able to engage, they have no place to sink their energy. I'll see if I can find that information and repost it.
And could there be like white people with cars who like can drive people of color around when they're there, so that they don't have to be near them at all?
I mean, I can say me personally, I own a vehicle, and whenever I'm in the city, if anybody, regardless, just you don't feel safe traveling for any reason on foot, you can feel free to contact me. If you're not already friends with me on Facebook, go ahead and add me on Facebook. But please feel free to contact me. I will drive the entire length of the city to drive you from North Philly back to South Philly. I have no problem making sure people are safe. So please use that as a resource. I extend that to anybody who doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, same here. I got my PT Cruiser is ready to go. We can't beat anyone in a race. We're not going that fast, but I can pick you up.
Well, I drive a Ford Fusion, so I might get mistaken as an undercover cop sometimes. So we're on the stealth tip with that one.
All right.
I'm gonna wrap this up just because I do have a call at 2 p.m. I really appreciate everybody's personal testimony. And I appreciate you all for jumping on this call and being allies, being representing what you saw and telling the public what you saw and what you know. I am getting some video over to Councilman Green. Took an interest in the video that I have already, specifically of the protester being shot in the face with the pepper spray from a couple of inches away. Anything that you all have like that, particularly if it's long form, if it shows time before and after the incident, please get it to me. Submissions at light-thief.com. And I have other ways of taking it. If you don't want to, if it's too big to email, if you don't want to host it yourself, I can figure out how to get it from you and get it into my hands and thereby get it into the hands of City Council. I, again, really appreciate you guys. Please keep messaging me if you go out today or plan to go out for any actions today. Let me know. I will be happy to restream your video, get it out there to the public, and I will thereby already have a copy of whatever you're streaming. I don't know what to say. My city has turned into a war zone. This is my neighborhood. This is where I live. This is where I work. I am physically unsafe right now, and I've had a lot of people ask me via Facebook Messenger and via posts and text messages, are you okay? Do you need anything? I'm so very, very, very far from okay right now. So very far from okay. And I need a lot of things. I think we all do. The first thing I need you to do is to exert any influence that you have towards ending police violence. That is the long and short of what is happening right now. It is police violence. It is police riot. We need to end it. We need to end it today. And after that, we need to concentrate on taking people out of office that don't deserve to be in office. People that lie, people that are corrupt, people that use the power of their office for their own ends.
Presidents that preyed upon teenage 13, 14-year-old girls and paid their family millions of dollars to keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, folks like that. Folks with even smaller examples of corruption.
Yeah, Joe Biden made an address from Philadelphia today, and I have not had a chance to watch that because it happened, I believe, while this was going on.
It did.
Everybody should check that out just to see what was said about it, because it's definitely will be interesting.
All right. Well, again, thank you all. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Talissa. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining me.
De nada.
And hope you all stay safe today. Stay safe tomorrow. Stay safe for the rest of your natural lives. I really appreciate it.
Please be safe.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.